What's up, geeks? Today we're going to take a deeper dive into player coach relationships and especially player coach relationships and what are the most successful player coach relationships of 2024. We are the tennis geeks, Purav Raja, Somdev Devarman, here to break it down for you a little bit further.
Yep, and the players and the coaches that we're going to talk about, the first one has to be Juan Carlos and Carlos Alcaraz. The next one, which I find super intriguing, is Daniel Medvedev and Gilles Savara. They've had a crazy journey as well. Arena Sabalenka and Anton Dubov have had hiccups, to say the least. How did they get past those? And the rise of Jasmine Paolini alongside Renzo Furlan. So I think these are the four ones we'll really get into and see exactly what it took and why they got there.
Yeah, let's start with saying that, what is required to be a great player coach relationship and why we talk about this. I think the key points here are communication, vision, and problem solving. So let's start with Carlos Alcaraz because that seems to be the one that the whole world's talking about, the communication with his coach in Juan Carlos Ferrero.
I think that one was a lot simpler because Carlos Alcaraz and Juan Carlos started when Alcaraz was 14 years old. That's when he moved to the academy. And when you have a former world number one who's a Spanish legend in Spain, I think you just sit down over there and say, he has a blueprint, I'll listen.
No, but also the way he evolved, the way that Spanish tennis was known for grinding mentality. It was known for Bruguera. It was known for Barosategi. It was known for Moya. Recently, it was even known for Rafa. And he wasn't the most attacking player in the world. Yes, he had a great forehand, but for a lot of his career, he was known as the best defense clay court player in the world. So from then to make a Carlos Alcaraz, who we say is a mix of all three.
Yeah, who's the mix of all three, who's got the best version of the best three players ever. And I think the reason because of that comes down to vision. I think Juan Carlos looked at the modern game and said, he needs to hit the ball big. He needs to have, a lot of racket at speed on both sides. He needs to move incredibly well. So we build the athlete first and not just focus on the player, not just focus on the wins.
Well, we build a nice person. I mean, he's a great human being in Carlos Alcaraz. I mean, the way that he kind of gives his interviews, the way he kind of speaks, the humbleness, the way that he kind of manages himself. You never see Carlos Alcaraz, in any sort of scam. You never see him in any sort of place that he just shouldn't be in. He's always in the right. And this has gone on for
his whole career.
His whole career.
And I think that also has to do with the Spanish mentality. Everybody, when you're following Rafa, you can't come out and be arrogant, right? And I think
we see it with so many different players here. You see it with so many. I'll say it in our own country of people, saying that they're slightly more arrogant than they need to be, and that's Rafa Nadal is the exact opposite.
Yeah, I mean, if Rafa Nadal is not arrogant at the French Open, no one has the right to be arrogant anywhere. I think I leave that at that. But I just think about the problems that someone like a Juan Carlos would have had with Carlos Alcaraz. The vision, the fact that you're losing a lot in tennis, the fact that you're second guessing yourself. Am I working on this enough? Am I playing the right tournaments? Am I doing enough pre-season training? Am I working on mobility enough? Am I working on agility enough? Technique enough? So there's so many different things, and the way that Juan Carlos has communicated also helps that Carlos Alcaraz's dad played tennis. I think that's a big one over there. But again, you talked about those things. Communication was brilliant. The vision was exemplary. And then at the end of the day,
problem solving was just
every single time there was a problem, they came out with it better. And for example, for that is, he loses to Djokovic with cramps at the French Open. Next thing you know, he's beaten him in a 5-set marathon at Wimbledon.
The vision of him, playing Alicante Challenger with Ramkumar.
You were there. You were playing doubles with Ramkumar.
Me on the sideline coaching. I mean, the vision was not the Alicante Challenger. The vision was Grand Slam titles. But the way to do it was by playing Alicante Challenger, winning all those matches, and then eventually becoming this world beater.
And world beater on every surface. He's won on clay, he's won on hard, he's won on grass twice now, and he's only 21 years old. So, I mean, that's a phenomenal coaching job from the get-go. And someone different, but who's also done a crazy good job is Gilles Savara. And
how do you manage this guy? Gilles Savara, we just spoke about Daniel Medvedev, sorry. Just to say, how do you manage Daniel Medvedev? How does a human being, how do you manage him with all his off-court antics and still be with him?
I think Gilles Savara is some sort of a Buddha. I really do, because you have to have the amount of patience that you have to have in order to deal with. I mean, he obviously saw Daniel Medvedev's genius. He saw it, he appreciated it, he noticed it, and he said, how do we make this guy better? And the example that I say over here is, anybody who looks at Medvedev play for the first time will tell you he can't volley. He can't volley. He never could volley. They started working in 2017. And now it's not like Daniel Medvedev is out there working on his shoelace volleys. He had a vision for exactly how Medvedev needed to play. And that genius comes out.
Yeah, and they started, like we said, they started at the back
2017,
end.
yeah.
Thailand qualifying challenger, Korea qualifying challenger, and where they are now to Grand Slam champion. Top 5 in the world.
Number one.
Number 1 in the world, having that vision of having that big serve consistently with that grandmaster feeling, with that feeling of never missing a backhand, lulling people into play. That amazing, we spoke about it earlier, that defense from the backhand corner, one of the best in the world.
For sure. And one of the things, if you look at Medvedev, when he came on the tour, he was 60, 70 in the world. He was on the baseline. And then gradually moved back and he started figuring out, him and Shavara together started figuring out that, hey, you know what, I'm much more lethal back here because I make the opponents think. I can use my speed, my strengths come into play. And there's just so many different ways where...
And remember the time when he was saying, everybody in the world was saying, stand on the baseline and return. Agassi stands on the baseline. Djokovic
Completely
stands
opposite.
on the baseline. Gilles and Daniil had a different mentality.
A different mentality, different view. And also one of the amazing cool things is he added Gilles Simon, who, again, tennis genius. I think Medvedev is a better version of Simon in many ways and similar in many ways. But the fact that you can add a superstar player and still be the head coach and still not let your ego be hurt, it tells you that this guy is a special coach. And that's why I think Medvedev and Shavara, I have had the kind of success that they've had.
I mean, big credit to Gilles Shavara. Any notable mentions on the men's side before we go on to the women?
I think Taylor Fritz, Michael Russell. Yeah. That's a huge one. Again, you look at a player who can't volley in Taylor Fritz. And I mean this with all due respect to anybody out there. But the guy, any old school player looking at Fritz volleying is going to say that's horrendous. But look at the things he can do. And look at how Michael Russell, a very smart player, has kind of,
had that vision, communication, problem-solving mentality. And for now we're in India, we got to talk about Sumit. I mean, big credit to his team, Sasha Nenshil and Milos Galicic. The job that they've done to make Sumit into a top 60 player, 60 odd
top
in
70,
the world,
yeah,
top
whatever,
70
same
player.
thing.
Wouldn't have thought it in my wildest dreams that he'd be top 70 in the world with that height, that serve.
And the restrictions. Honestly, I think it's nothing short of a miracle, not because of his height or anything else. This guy has had to go through hip surgery a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So basically start
and
over
be one
from
of the
scratch.
fastest guys out there.
He had to start from scratch. I was in Germany with Sumit, Sasha and Milos, where we went to a challenger in Ludenscheid and he lost 6-love. He lost 6-love in a challenger, and we're sitting over there, and Sasha Nensel's like, no panic, guys. 2 years later, he's top 100.
Exactly.
So there's a reason that happens, and there's no panic in disaster, as tennis players would want to call it, and stick to the vision, stick to the game plans, and be committed and work on the things that we believe. And Sumit Nagal being in where he is nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah, my notable mentions also have to go to Ben Shelton, who's done that.
Brian Shelton is an amazing coach.
And obviously Marinko Matosevic, who's done a great job with all the Aussies. But moving on to the women, and we got to start with Sabalenka and Dubov because that's the talk of the year. And Sabalenka and Dubov, where they were with 500 double faults. Where they were with a couple Grand Slam doubles titles, but not much else in the locker. She was compared to Alessandra Sasnovich in 2017. Well, Sasnovich is no more in that conversation.
Yeah, and I think Dubov started off as a hitting partner for Sabalenka. As she kind of moved on with her coach, Dubov stayed on. He became the head coach. And the problems they had, serving 400-500 double faults, Dubov did the decent thing. He said, I'm trying everything. We got a biomechanics guy. We got a psychologist. And we still can't figure this out. I'm sorry, I did my best, but I'm not the guy for you. And Sabalenka goes, it's not you, it's me. And that's the first time anybody's ever meant it. And she kept Dubov on. She threw out the psychologist. She threw out the biomechanics expert. And then she's winning slams.
Yeah, and so interesting in this era of psychology when everyone's saying, get a psychologist. Guess what Sabalenka says? She fires the psychologist. She fires everyone else. And she says, I'm going to keep the coach in Anton Dubov, keep my hitting partner, make him the coach and take him forward and solve this double fault problem, which was, it's a mammoth problem because you can hit the ball as hard as you can, but if it doesn't fall in,
what's the point?
there's no point. So the vision on that was someone like, Anton Dubov, I can solve this problem. I can actually make you a vision. I can actually make you a Grand Slam champion. Arena Sabalenka, after serving all those double faults, she's like, really? You can make me... I can barely
I mean,
put a serve in
she
the
was
box.
6th in the world and serving 250 double faults.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous, but they've found a way to solve that problem.
And obviously the communication there has to be phenomenal.
Communication, the commitment, the trust, all of these
And
things.
very different to the next person we're going to talk about, which is Jasmine Paolini, who pretty much couldn't hit a bomb serve and still can't hit a bomb serve just based on her height, just based on how short she is. Who would have thought she'd be a back-to-back Grand Slam finalist, be top 5 in the world, and have this amazing career from a girl from Italy?
I mean, the only person who thought that was Renzo Furlan. Renzo Furlan, a former top 20 ATP player. I mean, class coach. He was working with the Serbian Federation. He finishes that, starts with Paolini. She's about inside 100, but barely. But
Furlan was a good player, though.
A great player, and he saw the qualities that Paolini had and the tenacity that she had, the work ethic that she had, the fact that there were no holes in her game technically. What she had to deal with, which was her height and her serve and how she played based on those things. But Furlan had the vision, steadily improved ranking year on year, just outside the top 30 in 2023, and then a boom, and here she is.
Yeah, and the problem solving required to do that is very different to a Sabalenka. So the problem solving for Paolini was that she had to find a way to start winning these matches. Let's not forget she was just inside the top 100. So they had to produce a skill set to win these matches. Now, what was the skill set?
Yeah, and also to do that at 28 years old, it's very hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah.
And somehow Renzo Furlan and Paolini said, we're not going to learn all these new tricks, but we're just going to work with what we have. You're super fast. You don't have a weakness from the back. So now instead of rolling the ball around, start being a little bit more aggressive, be more aggressive on second serve returns. I mean, for her to make French finals, okay, but Wimbledon finals?
Scary,
I mean, Wimbledon
scary.
finals is an insane coaching job by Renzo Furlan, and no one can convince anybody of anything else, because to get that girl from just about 100 to 5 in the world and 12 in doubles. I mean, how do you... 12?
I mean...
it's scary to think how good she is, and she could not have done it without Renzo Furlan.
Do we have some notable mentions on the women's side? We got to mention Coco Gauff, I guess, the way that she's come.
I think Pere Riba.
Wow.
Pere Riba worked with Coco Gauff.
Pere Riba with anyone.
Pere Riba with anyone. Pere Riba worked with Coco Gauff at the US Open. She won it. Yes, Gilbert was there, but Gilbert's with her now. She's struggling now. Guess where Pere Riba is?
Qinwen Zheng.
Exactly. And she's made finals of major. She's won the Olympics. I mean, so Pere Riba, again, you're looking at, I think the personalities in all of these coaches, it really shines something. They don't want to be front and center. And I'm sorry that a lot of coaches out there want to be front and center. We know who they are. But the ones who don't, they take a back seat. They do their work quietly. They manage disasters. They communicate great. There's a lot of trust between them and the players. And they just want the best for their players for every step they take.
Well, you've heard our thoughts on coaching and who the best player-coach relationships are of 2024. We'd love to know your thoughts. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and let us know what you think. Thanks for watching this intriguing video. Goodbye.